Hey, it's Ubu, and today I decided we're going to talk about the Silent Hill 2 Remake Story trailer that was released just recently. And I've done a few videos on Silent Hill trailers and whatnot, and even Ascension a little bit. Just having a general discussion about it and breaking it down and sharing my opinions on the earlier trailers. But this time around, we've been getting more things like this, the story trailer, and also like 45 minutes of gameplay early on, early game of Silent Hill 2 Remake. So I decided to start with the story trailer, and basically this video is just to have an open discussion about the remake, which is what I try to enforce in my videos here. And I'm all for people sharing their critiques and opinions on what they think is going on and what they expect in the Silent Hill 2 remake, especially with the recent story trailer that we're going to go over today. And yeah, I'm going to share my opinions. I'm going to talk about what I'm excited for in the game, and I may even mention some things that I have some issues with. I'm not going to try to be hypercritical or anything unrealistic or anything like that. Just sharing my honest thoughts on this, and I implore you do the same, and just be polite to each other in the comments, please, and have an open discussion about it, because this is just what we're going to get. We're going to get Silent Hill 2 Remake, and there's nothing really else we can do about it other than try to enjoy it in some way, and I think it's okay to be critical of things you enjoy. It shows that you give a crap, and you want it to do well in some capacity. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. Basically, I'm going to have the trailer playing in the background for this outro, and then I'm going to kind of break things down, you know, frame by frame, more or less, and in a different sort of way today than I usually have. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk about this. I'm actually pretty excited in general now with the recent story trailer and everything, and the gameplay that they showed. Of course, I'm going to go more into depth as we sit here. We're just going to relax. No big deal. We're just hanging out talking, so just relax. um, yeah, so the story trailer is pretty cool. It showed us a lot of very pivotal moments in the game, which I'm kind of mixed on. I know they need to have some sort of advertising in some way to get people hyped for some of these very, you know, important scenes that we come across in the game, but some of them I wish they would have just left out of the trailer, just to keep us wondering in a way. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but basically the trailer opens with Maria in the jail scene, the jail cell where you come across her, I think almost kind of mid to late game, kind of. I'm going off of memory on Silent Hill 2, so please forgive me if I mess up any details. But basically the trailer opens with Maria sitting in a jail cell doing her monologue to James about, you know, just weird stuff. I always interpreted the scene with Maria in the jail, well, and in a lot of ways it has sort of this juxtaposition where James is also on the other side of jail bars, and I think in a lot of ways it represents, these are just my personal opinions, I know there's a very canon way of describing some of these scenes, and I'm not going off a head canon either, I'm just saying how I interpret the scene is they're both in a weird way confined from each other. Either that Maria, being a doppelganger of Mary, is almost like her memory is confined from James, seeing her through jail bars, but also James himself is confined in his own way, confined by just the misery of everything and the overall guilt and whatnot that he has gone through with his wife, his late wife. Yeah, Maria in this scene is very, in the original game, she's very almost like malevolent. She's kind of scary in a way, very intimidating, but also she's like playing like two different faces in a way. She's like being very, you know, concerning in a way, but also being kind of like Max Darrett was talking about this scene recently and how he wish it was done a little bit differently. She's kind of, she has a lot of venom in the original scene where she's just like, you can tell she's kind of spiteful, and she's really landed on thick on James of almost being like, she's almost like talking down to him in a lot of ways. Either way, I think the scene, it really conveys just the overall mystery of Maria being far more in depth than her just being some woman who happens to look like Mary. She plays a very important role in a lot of ways, while she's also extremely subtle as a character. I mean, even if you played Born from a Wish, which is her alternate scenario for the game, to me, it's hard for me to even understand it unless, obviously, I know you can look all this up. I like to really think about things personally. I don't like to look everything up, but I think that's what's so cool about Maria as a character, is that you can interpret her in several ways, aside from her just being like the ideal or the intimate nature of Maria or Mary that James was craving, more or less. A lot of people like to over correct, I think, and at least put too much emphasis on the sexual nature of James' desires. I think really a lot of it for me with Maria and just the overall appearance of certain enemies and just Maria's appearance is that James just lacked intimacy in his life, and Maria is a very like healthy young woman, very attractive and everything, so I think she more or less reflects that ideal appearance that he, I guess, like I said, craves in a sense. But I don't think James is as much as a sexual deviant as a lot of people like to play him out to be. I find that to be kind of ridiculous, but that's just my opinion. But Maria is very enigmatic and very mysterious, but also kind of a guide in her own way of James trying to understand his feelings of Mary, in my opinion. But I don't know, the scene with her in the jail cell is very interesting, and I think in the story trailer for the remake, she's a little too stiff in her delivery. Excuse me. She seems to be trying really hard to be like, I'm gonna be scary. But like, what's scary about her in the original game is that she's so confident and like, just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. She's just very odd, like almost like she knows she's in control in some way. That she has this power over James and she's using it. And I think that makes her scary. And obviously a lot of these scenes in the story trailer are bits and pieces of the overall experience. So I'm sure as we play through the remake, a lot of these will feel a little bit more congruent and together and just feel better as scenes. Getting bits and pieces in the story trailer like this, I don't think necessarily convey their message all that well. And I'll get more into that as we go. But in this story trailer remake for Maria, she is just very too matter-of-fact almost, and just her delivery, just like, I'm here and I'm supposed to act this way in this chair, blah blah blah. But like in the remake or in the original, she's like shadows over her eyes and she's just very strange, and like I said, she has this control over James that she's using in some aspect. But the scene itself is very important, I think, to the overall scheme of things, and just the overall reflection of confinement, like just the weird, bed that you see, which makes you think like, Mary being in the hospital, etc., etc. Anyways, I don't want to harp too long on this scene, but the next one, we'll see a little bit of Mary in the hotel when this kind of a flashback scenario, I suppose, where it shows where James and Mary were in the hotel together at the Toluca Lake Hotel or whatever it's called. Recording her and like, goofing around, hanging out. She's looking out the window, which looks really good. I think the flashback here looks really good. And then, of course, it shows James sort of walking out into Silent Hill in the intro of the game, which I think looks really cool. And a lot of people have mentioned some details with one of the signs mentioning one of the towns that's mentioned in the first game, like Brahms or something. And then I think someone said that like Sybil Bennett said like, oh, it's the next town over. But in the original Silent Hill 2, it said it was like 260 miles away or something, which is like not the next town over. So they just completely removed the mileage on the street sign over above the tunnel, which I guess is an interesting detail. To me, I never even really knew that until someone pointed it out. I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. All right. But it'll be cool to walk around the observation platform here at the beginning in this over-the-shoulder perspective, and everyone wants to look in the back of the car and look around the environment. I think that's what's going to be a really big plus of the perspective. Is feeling like you're a little bit more immersed in a sense. I mean, I like the fixed camera and the weird camera angles in general in the original game, but I think the more personal, up-close perspective in the remake, I think, will be kind of refreshing. We'll just have to see how it goes. Because at the same time, it can make the vision of the character kind of narrowed in, and you're only kind of looking at what's in front of you, which is sort of the dichotomy between the original camera angles. In the original game, you know, you get a lot of different angles and wide open sort of scenes with the camera and the way it's just, you know, used. But I also like the over the shoulder just in general as a concept. I think it's kind of cool. So it'll be cool to explore around these areas. And then we should, you know, see some scenes of the town and, you know, the gazebo, I guess, at the lake early on in the game. Now, this is a big one here that we were talking about, everybody's been talking about, is Eddie, aka Benny. That's like a joke that's been going around where some streamer apparently called him Benny, and people have been giving him hell for it. It's kind of funny, actually. But we see Eddie Bromkowski, something like that. I don't remember exactly how you say his last name, but yeah, he is a very interesting looking character in this now. Before, I mean, he just looks like a dude, like a kind of a big dude, just a normal everyday looking guy, really. But they really like cranked up his appearance in the remake, which I think is a good thing. He has very blue eyes. He's a very heavy-set man, which is totally fine. I'm a big guy myself. But yeah, it shows him with his revolver, his big freaking crazy, like, I don't even know what that is, Smith & Wesson or something, or Colt 45 or whatever. And he has a little scene with James here where, you know, he's talking about just all you have to do is put the gun to their head and pow. You know, he's like, this is kind of towards the end of the game where Eddie has really turned for the worst, took a turn for the worse, and he's not doing so well mentally. And I think his presentation here, visually, I think is pretty cool. He's kind of unsettling looking in a way, but I'm glad they didn't, like, dial it back. And, like, I was, you know, sometimes I think developers can overcorrect in terms of certain social discussions, social commentary, but I'm glad that they kept him relevant to what his story is about. And a lot of it has to do with him being made fun of for his appearance and just his weight and things of that nature. But it's a little bit more in depth than that. But that's kind of like the surface level of it. And I'm glad that they decided to keep his appearance to be in a way where it reflects that story. I'm glad they didn't dial back his appearance to be like, well, we don't want to offend anybody for him being like heavyset or something. Anyways, maybe I'm reading too far into that. But I like his appearance. I'm actually kind of surprised he's so, like, kind of weird looking. His blue eyes is what makes it like, you know, like, it's kind of weird. But I think as we see Eddie throughout the game, because somebody was, you know, and this is just, I'm not like nitpicking what people's opinions are. I'm just sort of using it as a reference that somebody mentioned that in the original game, he was a lot scarier in this kind of scene. But like I said earlier in my video, we haven't really seen entire cutscenes. We're only getting bits and pieces. So maybe as we play the whole game and get these full-fledged cutscenes, maybe there's more cutscenes that they've added that we just aren't familiar with or don't know about. And maybe it'll feel a little bit more fleshed out and impactful when we get to moments like this. Because I think his delivery and everything in the trailer, I think, was pretty good, personally. Because I have noticed there can be a very almost cliche way of portraying someone going through some sort of a mental break or something in entertainment nowadays. I like his sort of conserved, like, controlled sort of break. Like, he's obviously laughing and joking about killing people, but he's not, like, maniacally over the top, like, cliche villain about it either, which I think is a good thing. I like he's very reserved. He's, like, right on the edge, you know what I mean, of just, like, breaking. And I think that's a good way to just show that he's still in control, and then something eventually, you know, in the game, he's gonna just, like, go over the edge. And I imagine that might be, like, real scary. Like, that's just my theory, but we'll just have to play the game and see for ourselves. I think that scene with Eddie was pretty cool. He's just talking with James, and James is like, dude, you can't just kill people because of the way they look at you. And he's like, you should see your face, dude. Or something like that. It's pretty good. Pretty good scene. And he just kind of laughs at him. Eddie's laughing at him. That was pretty cool. It was a weird scene. I like Eddie and the way he looks. And then we have a scene We're just, we've seen before in one of the trailers where James is trying to convince Laura, like, you know, be careful, it's dangerous out there. And she's like, no, or whatever. She's a brat or whatever. Also heard that the actress for Laura in the game is the same actress for Laura in the movie coming out. I haven't looked that up, but that would be really interesting. Kind of a character actress crossover between the two things. I think that would be really cool. We showed James walking towards some doors, which might be the Flesh Lips boss encounter. I'm not quite sure. We get to see a little bit of Angela Roscoe in the mirror room, which is also a very interesting room. One of my favorites. Very odd and strange interaction. Kind of sad, but this whole game is kind of terribly sad. So, just in general. Show a little bit of Mary. Show him, James approaching a jukebox. I'm kind of skipping over this on my own here because I've had some issues recording trailers for some reason. So I'm just doing this a different way today. Yeah, so we see the jukebox in the story trailer, which they do show some in the 45 minutes gameplay recently that they did. There are more environments in the town itself, like shops and buildings that we can explore. Maybe I assume for like side missions and things of that nature, if like completionists or whatever. Maybe there's additional ways that the exploration is connected to the actual progression of the game, like going from like the apartments to the hospital. Maybe things in between that might all connect in some way to the hospital. I don't know. That's just a theory. But yeah, the jukebox is a puzzle of some kind where you have to find a record in one shop. You bring the record to the jukebox and you put them together, and then it like does something. They didn't show it in the gameplay. They were smart about not actually showing what these puzzles do or give you when you complete them. So I thought that was smart for them to do. Now, there's also this scene at night. Maybe it must be around when the nighttime sections happen, or it's kind of like the other world, but not really. And it's raining, which I don't remember there any rain in the original game. So I like rain in video games. So I think it'll be cool to see different weather environment or different weather patterns at the nighttime sections. I think that would add some pretty cool atmosphere. You know, I have no problem with that. Then we see James. This trailer jumps around a bit in terms of scenes and the chronology of it. But then it shows James finding Eddie when he's throwing up in the toilet, which is really gross. And then we see James kind of peering into like some kind of metal cage, which I believe would be the prison level. There's some entity in the prison level that you don't really see, but you can hear him. He's walking around. He sounds very large. He's very heavy. He sounds kind of scary. I think not seeing him is what makes it so scary. So maybe this is what James is kind of peering into. Because you can hear some weird noises and stuff in these cages, and he's like, or it's kind of like a caged off wall, like a vent system or something. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see the prison level. It's one of my favorite levels, actually. I think it's an underrated level. Yeah, some more of Eddie at the toilet. See a bit of Mary looking out the window, and then we, you know, kind of go. They start going back and forth here with more Mary and Maria scenes. James looking into the window, which looks. Or to the mirror, excuse me, at the beginning of the game, and it looks really good. They put the shadow over his eyes. They toned down his facial features. His hair looks pretty decent. But just his overall appearance has been improved, in my opinion, from the original showing, which I'm really glad they listened to that criticism of the original concept, because I think he just looked far too exaggerated as a character. He looked like a cartoon character. He just like over the top. He just looked ridiculous, really, but it might have worked. But I like his a lot more clean-cut, just sort of toned down facial features, just very normal looking dude. I like that personally. Yeah, it shows Maria hanging out, and it just kind of goes back and forth between scenes like that. Here it shows James in a little close-up there, and then it shows James sort of exploring through these different environments and talking to Laura and Maria. Okay, this is one part of the trailer I kind of noted to, or like alluded to earlier in my video here, about them possibly being better off leaving out some of these scenes of the story trailer. And I think the most important one they could have left out, at least for the benefit of the player, is the Angela scene on the burning staircase. Now, I've already I probably should have mentioned spoilers early on. I'll make sure to put a post up on the screen for that early on in the video. But Angela's story is super tragic and awful. Like, I feel horrible for her. Everyone in this town, all the characters are going through hell, basically. So, but Angela's story, in its own way, is extremely dark, and the burning staircase scene with her is the, like, climax of that interaction between her and James. Because you kind of just run across her a few times, but then when you meet her in the burning staircase, man, it is sad as hell. It, like, one of the few scenes in a video game that actually will tear me up, you know, if I really think about it. But showing that scene in the story trailer, I felt like shouldn't have been done. I mean, obviously, if you haven't played the game before, you don't really know its implications, just in a trailer. But it's very late game, and its implications and its overall impact, I think, on the overall story, I think is really important. And I think it's one of the pinnacles of the game, in my opinion. And them just kind of slapping it into a trailer felt kind of weird to me. That's a bit of a personal nitpick, but I wish some of these things were still left up to the imagination as a player, especially a returning player, and been like, man, I wonder what they're going to do with that scene. Maybe they're showing it just to be like, hey, this is kind of what it looks like, if you were wondering, just to, like, maybe to remove some doubt. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm just saying, I think some of these scenes are more impactful if they're just not shown at all whatsoever. But maybe they add some things that, you know, will connect all of this and everything. I think it'll be really cool. We'll just have to wait and see. That's just one of my personal nitpicks of the trailer. It says James hanging out in a closet where Pyramid Head is. And then it shows James in the hotel room where he finds the tape. And it shows him putting the tape in the VHS player, the VCR. A little bit more Maria and Mary back and forth. I like how they're doing that in the trailer, showing Maria, showing Mary. I think that's a good way to kind of connect the two characters in a sense. And in terms of a trailer presentation, it's not too bad. And then it shows James, of course, putting the VHS in, and I suppose witnessing what's on it, which is basically his repressed memory is the VHS. And then it shows a nice clip of him sort of staring into the blank television, the reflection. That's really good. And then that's the whole trailer. I know I kind of skimmed through a lot of it. A lot of it is just sort of flash images and quick scenes of stuff that we've seen before and we are already familiar with. I wanted to touch up on a few of those points as I was going through, like with Maria in that scene and Eddie and et cetera, et cetera. So my overall impressions of the trailer, the story trailer, is I would say it was pretty good. And I'm glad they started kind of stepping up their advertising and their marketing. I still don't like their pre-order bonuses or anything like that, but if you are interested in some Silent Hill 2 merch of some kind, I know GameStop has some stuff up for pre-order, which actually looks pretty cool. There's like some shirts and some mugs, some desk lights, a nice big Silent Hill 2 computer mouse pad, and some other things like that. A wireless PC controller, which looked really good. Yeah, so go look at that GameStop shop and look at that stuff, because Konami's shop is a complete mess, in my opinion. But anyways, excuse me, in terms of their overall marketing, doing a trailer like this and then doing like the 30 to 45 minutes of gameplay, I think was super smart, because it's only like a month away, like 40 days away, and we're pretty close. I just hope the number one thing for me is that the game is optimized, even with seeing the minimum and recommended settings for PC. I'm a little worried. That's my only issue with a lot of remakes and just AAA games in general nowadays, is they really like to push the damn hardware on people nowadays, where it's like, can we just optimize a game that doesn't have to look it doesn't have to look perfectly realistic. Let's just optimize it, get it kind of good looking. Just go for art direction over like graphic fidelity realism, because the original game is kind of it's kind of ugly, but also beautiful. Because I played the Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition, which I think is by far the best way to play the original game, if you can get your hands on a CD key for the game, which there are ways to do. And then you just go to the Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition website, and you have to go through an install guide, which is kind of complicated, but it's not too hard to do. Overall impressions of the story trailer is that it's pretty good. I would say I have some gripes with it, nothing too, I would say, unreasonable. I think some scenes probably should have been left out, and I would have maybe made things a little bit more chronologically sound in the trailer. Maybe they did that on purpose just to sort of like throw you off a little bit here and there. But also the scene with Maria felt a little stale and maybe not directed in the right way compared to the original. But like I said, when you play the remake, maybe just the overall shift of tone with new actors and voice acting and overall appearances of people and the way they're presented in scenes together, maybe the Maria scene will feel a little bit more congruent, a little bit more natural to the overall scheme of the remake. It's hard to really say too much about, you know, snippets here and there in a story trailer like this, because everything's out of order and it's only short moments of these important scenes. But I'm curious if they'll give us any more trailers before the actual release date. I don't think they should show too much personally, but I think there needs to be something left to the imagination still throughout this game. And there are several things they haven't quite shown at all, like in terms of some hospital scenes and things like that involving Maria, meeting Maria, and especially some of those flashback scenes later on in the game. Oof, boy, I'm looking forward to those, because those are just great. They're just so well done. Oh my gosh. The stuff with Mary at the end of the game, man, they really need to hold that close and not really show much about it, in my opinion. I've also heard, I'm going to talk about a few details of the game and just overall gameplay that they showed. I heard someone say that the game is, for a first playthrough, is supposed to take like 20 hours. 20 hours. And I'm not sure where they even got that information, so I'm not even sure if it's true. The original game, you could easily beat. If you know what you're doing, and if you're rushing, you could probably beat it in like 4 hours. Maybe less. My playthrough on my channel is 5.5 hours of gameplay. Now, in terms of like, that's what it says in the end result of my playthrough. 5 hours, 31 minutes, something like that. For the remake to crank it up to like 3 times the amount of gameplay, I think can be a good thing and a bad thing. Because I think what makes Silent Hill 2 especially great as a horror experience is that it doesn't overstay its welcome. It really throws you into it and lets you get through the game and experience these characters and their situations and the overall dread of the town. The music is great. Everything about this game is excellent. Grabbing that experience of the original and stretching it out in terms of gameplay, I hope doesn't affect the game negatively, because I think if you put a lot of dead air in between the important moments of the original game, just how the story beats work and the pacing of the original game is probably one of its biggest strengths, in my opinion, as a psychological horror game. But I think if there's too much filler and stuff added to the remake between these pivotal moments, maybe it won't affect the game negatively at all. This is just a concern. I'm not saying it's gonna make it worse, but it did make me a little concerned. And that's just all I'm talking about. I'm kind of worried that it's like, okay, how long does it take to get to the apartments for the first time? Okay, that's the intro of the game, so I'm okay with it taking its time a little bit here and there to kind of really get you into the, you know, the tone of everything and immerse you. So after the apartments, to get to the hospital, how much filler is there in between those moments? Maybe there's more events that will come across story related. I hope they don't mess with the story like at all whatsoever. But maybe they, with the side missions or whatever they're called, where you can explore more, will feel beneficial to the overall pacing of the game and its story and its tone, and not take you out of it. I don't want the side missions to be just sort of like busy work just to like pad the game time. Because, I mean, man, in the original game, you don't really spend a lot of time doing nothing. Like, some of the puzzles can be pretty convoluted in terms of like, I don't know what this item does or where I need to take it kind of thing. But I'd much rather be working on a puzzle that's associated with the primary objective than fiddling around with jukeboxes and stuff for 15 hours or whatever. I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Obviously, like I said, I'm not sure how if it's confirmed or not in terms of overall gameplay. I'm okay with it as long as it feels right to the pacing of the game. Because for me, I think horror games and things of that nature don't need to be 20 hours long. However, I mean, it could work out. It could be fun. It could be cool to spend a lot more time in Silent Hill and the overall story, I suppose. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Just, like I said, I wanted to make that concern of mine out there to see what y'all have to say about it. But other than that, some of the gameplay looked pretty good. I think my overall primary issue, really my only issue with gameplay that they recently showed, is just some of the character animations still just don't look great. I think they're kind of janky, which, you know, everyone will say, well, everyone loves the jank of the original game. But I'm like, yeah, that game is 21, 22 years old. All right. This is a remake, a AAA game. It doesn't need to have janky animations. Okay. It showed some of the aiming with the gun. The reticle is all over the place. It looked more frustrating to use than anything because of the original game. And maybe there's options for these things that when you aim at somebody in the original game, it like locks to them. You can't miss. I mean, like, you really can't. I'd much prefer that if they're going to go with janky combat. Just like, let me just point and shoot and I just move on. But if it's going to be like a really annoying, like shaky gun crap thing, even though it might add some realism, I'm just saying in terms of presentation and overall just fluid gameplay, I would much prefer rather than like trying to emulate some jankiness of the original game. I think it's a poor excuse to say that it's okay if the animations are bad because the game had bad animations 20 years ago. I think that's a cop-out, in my opinion. But, like I said, once you start playing it, it might be fine. But, yeah, the animations and the gameplay they were showing, not great. But, like, just the way James runs, even though he does run, most people... kind of going on a rant here. But there's this YouTuber, Bach Soup. He's a pretty funny guy. He doesn't know who I am, probably, but I've watched his videos. He does a lot of playthroughs of horror games and Silent Hill games with mods and stuff like that. He has pretty good content, in my opinion. But he was talking about, I think it was Silent Hill, maybe it was the Silent Hill 2 remake he was talking about, where he said people were talking about James' run animation, like I just did, being kind of goofy, but he said, just ask anybody, any random person to run for you, and it'll probably look silly. And I thought that was actually a pretty good point. I mean, I'm sure my run looks silly, and everybody else's run looks kind of silly in some way. Still, I would rather them polish up his animations a little bit. The way he swings on enemies, it just kind of moves around in general is a little stiff, but not the end of the world. Just an observation. One big thing about the gameplay they showed was the Pyramid Head fight, which is another thing I wish they would just not show. But it looked kind of terrible from the gameplay. It's in a weird room now, rather than like on the staircase in the original game. There's like boxes and stuff that he like Pyramid Head will smash through. He has really weird animations. His movement and his like the weight of his character feels odd. That's kind of what I mean about the animations feeling weird, is the characters, it's like they have a weird weight about them. Like they just like, they're wiggly and kind of like just, it's just weird looking. I don't know. I think I'm done ranting about that enough. I'll link Bach Soup's channel in the pinned comment if you're curious of his channel and stuff, the games he plays. He's a pretty cool dude from what I can tell. I like that he does like fake, like, oh no, like he'll freak out, but just to like be messing around, kind of like I do sometimes. I think that's funny. And he has some pretty cool insights and opinions on Silent Hill 2 and just the Silent Hill franchise in general, if you're curious to hear his thoughts on it. So I don't want to rant on forever about this. Like I said, overall story impressions here on the trailer is it's pretty decent, and I am excited to play this game more than I was before. I think seeing the lack of marketing and transparency the remake was having for a while, like over a year of complete radio silence, and then getting something like Ascension felt really bad. Like it was like, man, I would feel like some of the frustrations from Ascension carried over to people's dooming about Silent Hill 2 remake. And to be fair, some of the early Silent Hill 2 remake stuff didn't look great, but I'm invigorated seeing the story trailer and the 45 minutes of gameplay. I appreciate them showing that much gameplay, really give you an idea of what to expect. So I appreciate their transparency when it comes to that. And I wish them the best. I want this game to succeed in some capacity. But like I said many times, we'll just have to play it and see it for ourselves. And yeah, I just wanted to have an open discussion about this, and I encourage you to please share your opinions on the Silent Hill 2 remake, and what would you like to see in the game from what you've seen in the game? Like, what are your favorite things that you've noticed? Like, one of my favorite things is seeing him actually, like, pick up notes and read them like physical objects. I think that's really cool. So yeah, tell me what you think about the Silent Hill 2 story trailer and the gameplay of, 30 to 45 minutes. Tell me what you think about those, and what you thought about the gameplay, and what you thought about the story trailer. What are your favorite things about them, and what do you expect to maybe be the biggest thing you're looking forward to in the remake, in terms of maybe your favorite scene in the game, or favorite level, or just overall, what are you looking forward to in the remake? Tell me what you have in mind. I'd like to hear what you have to say. And please, if you have any discussions about the remake and have any disagreements, just be respectful and everything, because I read all my comments, and I will not be having any rudeness or craziness in my comment section. Just letting you know. One of my previous Silent Hill 2 remake videos did really well. Everyone was very nice, even when disagreeing with each other. I read every single comment. I had 100 and something comments or something, like the most comments I've ever had on a video. It was really awesome. So like I said, let me know what's up in the comments. All of your thoughts on the Silent Hill 2 remake and the gameplay and the story trailer. Tell me what's up. What's your favorite thing you're looking forward to? And yeah, tell me what one thing you're most concerned about too. Let's do both. Do your favorite thing you're looking forward to and doing one thing you're really worried about. Anyways, I think I'm going to end the video here. I think I've rambled enough, and maybe I'll do another Silent Hill 2 remake video here soon before the release of the game. Maybe do another Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition playthrough, something like that. I'm not quite sure. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you being here if you're here for this long. And, well, if you enjoyed my video, hit subscribe if you're new here. I'd really appreciate that. Join the Pale Moth Society. That's what we are here, and we welcome you. And, yeah. Also, don't forget to leave a like, and like I said already, comment, and share the video even. I would really appreciate that. It helps me get some attention on my channel, get some people to check it out. Let me know what's up. I'm here to have fun and talk about horror games, play horror games, give feedback to hopefully benefit someone. And yeah, let me know what you think of my video. I'd really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. I could give the Silent Hill 2 story trailer a final judgment. If you're not familiar with me, I give games that I play a final judgment, and that's my rating. I would say it's good. I'll just leave it at that. And, yeah. I think that's all I have to say about it. So, thanks for hanging out with me. And don't forget, the Pale Moth is always watching.